If you're planning on visiting the Virgin Islands, you have to dive the wreck of the Rhone. I recently had the chance to dive the Rhone this past June while covering Wreck Week in the British Virgin Islands for the newspaper I work for. In late October of 1867, a Category 3 hurricane, later dubbed San Narciso, swept through the Caribbean. In anticipation for the storm, the iron-hulled, double-masted mail ship steamed out of Great Harbor on Peter Island on the 27th of October. As the eye of San Narciso passed overhead, many of the passengers from the nearby R.M.S. Conway transferred to the sturdier Rhone, after which the Rhone was to make for open sea. As was customary at the time, the passengers in the Rhone were tied to their beds to prevent them from being injured by the rough water. As the second half of the storm was fast approaching, the Rhone's captain, Frederick Woolley, ordered his crew to cut the anchor loose as it was lodged in the coral, the time lost forcing him to take a shortcut around Black Rock Point off Salt Island. Just as she rounded the point, however, the winds shifted and the steamer was thrown into the rocks, splitting its hull in two and killing an estimated 123 people out of the 145. Over 100 years later, the Rhone still lies at the bottom of the seafloor, and I had a blast exploring the site during 3 separate dives. 2 day dives and a night dive. The first dive I made on the Rhone was during late morning at about 10:42 a.m. I maxed out at 75 feet with 86 degrees of water temperature, which is pretty normal considering the time of year. One of the great experiences about diving the bow is just how easy it is to penetrate due to the ship being essentially cut in half. The Rhone completely enshrouds you once inside. You can feel how old everything is around you. The visibility you see here is not as good as it normally is, I'm told, but for what I'm used to coming from Texas, it's definitely not bad at all. On each of my 3 dives, there were plenty of animals. Sharks on, I think, every single dive, along with other predatory fish like barracuda. And luckily, I only saw a few lionfish. The second dive I made on the Rhone happened later that same day, this time the stern, which after looking at my dive watch, maxed out at about 76 feet. This dive took 54 minutes. What I would say about the stern is to stay close to the bottom. Otherwise, on most days, you're going to have to be battling a current. A shallower dive, the stern has its own upsides. Mainly, the colors pop much more with more sunlight. On both the bow and stern dives, however, the davits for the lifeboats can still easily be seen. The distance between the bow and the stern isn't that bad, though I'd still suggest doing at least 1 dive per section. And because your max depth is less, you get a little bit more time exploring. And there's actually a little bit more to explore at the stern if you feel like going out past the immediate dive site. On the third dive, we dropped into the water by 8:04 p.m. and it was definitely dark. We hit about 73 feet max for 45 minutes with a balmy 86 degrees of water temperature. There's literally nothing better than night diving. If I could only do one or the other, nighttime diving is what I would choose. I think this is because it feels more like space than the ocean when everything is pitch black around you. Additionally, the light from our torches gave the best dynamic range to living colors that far under the surface. The red lights you see were video lights by Dan Melee to approximate the true colors of the coral he was shooting. Being a coral biologist, Dan needs to make sure he is taking the most accurate photos of his subjects that he can. If you have more than a day to dive the British Virgin Islands, there are other wreck sites. But out of the few that I've tried, the wreck of the Rhone was definitely my favorite. I think I could do another dozen or so dives there, exploring all the site has to offer.
Sitting in the basement apartment I rented with you.
I hope you liked my coverage of the Rhone. If you enjoyed, be sure to leave a like down below and comment to let me know what I might be able to do better or what you'd like to see next in the future. In any case, I hope you have a nice rest of your week. Until next time, stay cool.